Fridays. And as you can see, you have myself, Stefania Pulio, as your co-host turned into host today because Zanetta unfortunately wasn't able to join us. However, she may be streaming in. It depends. She's away on some travel. So, but we have got the show, and I have an amazing, wonderful guest that is going to be joining me, and that is Enolia. That's right, from Enolia.live. And we have a very interesting topic to be talking about today. And I'm so excited because I guess all our topics that we talk about here at Fun Fresh Fridays are exciting and interesting. And there's always, I guess, you know, we're all got something to add to it. So if you are listening, please join in with us. Let me know that you would like to join in, and I will let you in on our show. Okay, so we can have up to 6 people join in the conversation. Now, I know I've invited a lot of people, and you know who you are, and I would love for you to come and join us. But before we go on, let me invite the lovely Enolia and then introduce our topic. So here we go. Enolia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stefania. It's so great to see you.
Thank you for joining me today on Fun Fresh Fridays. As you know, Zanetta was unable to join us, and at the last minute, I said, hey, Enolia, join me. And I just want to acknowledge and say thank you, because I know it is like very late there or very early in the morning. Either way, it's an unusual hour there in Africa, in Angola. Is that correct?
That's correct.
1:30, am I right? Is that the time, 1:30 there?
Yes, it is. It's 1:30 a.m. And that's all right, because the energy is flowing. This is the world connection, and that's the beauty of the internet. And I'm sitting here looking at some of the comments, and I see Zanetta saying, hello, Bella.
Hi. How do I bring those comments up? Because I can't really see where they are. Is it chat? Do I open up?
I just see them right here.
I've got them now. Okay. Yes. Okay. So, yes, Zanetta saying, hi, Bella. Hi, darling. So we're going to miss you, but hey, we got this under control. And today we've got an amazing topic that I would like to introduce, and it is avoid losing your voice in your family dynamics. And this is definitely a topic that maybe a lot of us, I know I have experienced this, losing my voice, losing, confidence, losing literally letting the words out. Let alone kind of like stepping into your confidence. And we're going to be talking about different areas. So a few questions that I kind of put together that I thought covers this is, do you avoid communicating both positive and negative feelings to loved ones? And usually it's with our loved ones that we actually hold back and lose our voice. We give our power away. We allow others to take our power, and also we step back in order for others to shine and not really allow our own shine come through. And I've got some other questions which we'll be going through, but the first one is, do you avoid communicating both positive and negative feelings to loved ones? So Enolia, please tell me your thoughts on that.
Do I avoid? So that's an interesting question, because, it's not the dynamic to whether I communicate positive or negative. It's almost like the pecking order that I see myself in, in the role of mother. Okay, no problem communicating what I wanted, what I needed, and everything in terms of just getting things organized, getting things done. But where I found that I kind of got lost in the shuffle when it is when prioritizing and organizing events and finding that because being the matriarch and this whole idea of what taking care of everyone else's needs was, and the way that society has always defined that role, it's like the mother gives up everything to make sure that her family is taken care of. And that's where the loss actually took place, because some of us actually take on this martyr role, this martyr syndrome, where you place everything and everyone in more importance than what you might have going on. And then therein lies the sacrifice. And then therein lies the lost voice, because you're not being prioritized the same as other family members. The kids get the priority. They have the activities going on. The husband gets the priority. Maybe he has work going on, and you're stay at home. And even those who aren't even stay at home, they're working also and expected to do two jobs, which is come home and still take care of the family and still be the chauffeur for the kids going back and forth to activities. And you tag team some of it, but everybody's looking at you or that mom to basically say, how are we going to eat? It's time to eat. What's prepared? I mean, so this dynamic unfolds, and it can be reversed for men too. They're stay-at-home dads now too. So it goes, but that role that where you play the martyr complex, the martyr syndrome of placing everybody's priorities over your own instead of having equal priority. That answers the question.
Yeah, well, I guess, it's not even about answering a question. It's more about, discussion and conversing around some of these points. And I guess too, it applies for people, like you said, both males and females. It applies to also, if we're talking about women that don't have children, but they may have other responsibilities as well. And I guess that's a bit like me, where I don't have children, but I do have a lot of other responsibilities, and particularly like looking after my parents, for those of you that, know or don't know, like I have two elderly parents that I actually care for, and, putting everybody else first, and sometimes not really having that voice to say what I would like to say, or how I would like to reposition things or situations. So definitely, it does definitely have an impact. But let's talk about mothers and or family members in general that struggle to actually. What is it that stops them? What do you think is it that actually puts them in this situation? Because they're obviously giving their power away. They're obviously, not feeling confident in themselves, not believing in themselves. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it goes back to early childhood, obviously. But what are your thoughts on that, Leon?
I don't know. I guess it depends on the cultural upbringing that you have, and how certain genders are valued in that upbringing, and the expectations that the dynamics actually has of you, which is embedded in that cultural upbringing, that really shape. So for those who take a look at the role of women in certain cultures, you're expected to give up everything and not complain, not look for anything other than that. So, that is the norm. That is the norm. Yeah. Or that a woman's place is to serve. That's the cultural norm. Or for, that matter, a man's place is to take care of everything else and, doesn't have a choice and doesn't have a say in the matter. So there's a lot of different dynamics out there, and I'm really sensitized to the cultural aspects of that because of where I'm living, because of exploring many cultures across this world. So everything is really vastly different. And in thinking in broad terms, I can't put broad stroke over it. When we talk about the US, though, where I was born and raised, it all, again, it still depends on the family dynamics, but it's easy to be able to lose yourself and just place everything because you want the best for your family. And in wanting the best for your family, you feel that, well, am I really giving my best if I'm not sacrificing? And then why does that personal sacrifice have to take place if you are giving them your best? It doesn't have to be at a sacrifice.
No,
it doesn't have to be at a cost. And a lot of people, because I don't know if it's society that really defines it that way, but a lot of people feel that way. Oh, you're not being a good mother unless you're really sacrificing. Oh, you're not really giving 100% unless, it costs you something. And then you look up and you go, how did I get here? And when did all of this happen?
Absolutely.
Because you're trying to get lost in those dynamics completely.
Yeah, and the danger of getting lost in those dynamics as well is, anger sets in, resentment sets in. Let's not forget these emotions that start brewing up inside us. And, for some of us, we don't know how to handle that. We really don't know how to deal with it. And if we're, have certain behavioral patterns, we can easily just be explosive, lash out, and it creates more of a problem. We've got here Patricia. She's saying, sounding beautiful, blessings. Come and join us, Patricia. I know you're there. Come and join us, please.
Yes, join us, Patricia.
Yes, because it's only the two of us. So we'd love to have you and share some of your wisdom as well. But I just want to add to the cultural influence. I think that is definitely something that I have experienced, being born and bred in Australia and yet coming and living in an Italian family, Sicilian, by the way. And that whole dynamics of, for me, it was like being one person, one personality type character at home. And then as soon as I was stepping outdoors, I was another, because I had to manage and juggle both. And for me, I can say that was a real struggle, very confusing, because you wanted to, fit in with, I guess, your peer group, society outdoors. But then when you're at home, a lot of for me, the Italian influence of behaving and, when to, I guess, speak, if in some cases, because the women have different roles to play out in an Italian family. And you may think, well, wow, that's years ago. But see, this is what people forget, that when my parents migrated to Australia, or when anyone, and I've studied this very thoroughly amongst other families, is they moved out, say, in the 50s, in the 60s, okay? So they left their hometown and they took everything with them as far as, behavior, habits, culture, mannerisms, everything. And even though they came to live in Australia, they still kind of segregated themselves and kept, following that tradition. And even though they have modified and changed, that is still bred in them. Okay. Now, when I went back and I lived in Italy for 7 years, and, I just got back a year and a half ago, of course, this was back in 2013, things had changed. So I was going back to, Italy, Sicily, with a little bit of a vision of what was at home for me, but it had totally changed because they were moving with the times. Whereas the people that migrated didn't move with the times because, they just uprooted and planted themselves in another country, isolating themselves a little bit for protection and, keeping that family, that Italian culture dynamics very close together in their family. And I speak about the Italians, but, of course, we have the Greeks, we have the Lebanese, we have the Turks, we have, the Pakistan, everybody, the Indians, the Chinese, they did the same thing. It's only, I guess, the next generation that has, I guess, blended in, amalgamated together to bring that little bit more of a, I guess, Western, dynamics to family dynamics. Yes. So that has been, I guess, a big thing, and that's probably what you're witnessing too, a little bit, right, Enolia?
Well, I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and what really comes to mind is this. When we talk about the elders and the old country and the old traditions and the old values, what the gap seems to me to be is that the environment is changing around. The value stream is not, or the traditions are not. And no matter what traditions you hold, some were predicated on the time that you were in when they were created. And when you're 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years later, and that value stream or that tradition hasn't changed to the circumstances of which you're dealing with now, it's a gap. And when that gap happens, and what's been happening with a great deal of many cultures is that the younger generations don't want to follow it because it doesn't make sense to them. They don't understand because, all they see is what's going on around them. And they're looking at this older tradition, and they're moving from the countrysides to the cities, and they're not engaging in any of it. And with that gap, there's no harmony. And somewhere along the lines, we need to learn how to balance and harmonize between the traditions and the circumstance and what it means to the family, and holding our voice and just bringing it all together so that it's complementary to one another, versus feeling oppressed by the traditions. And if I don't do it exactly like this here and now, then you get the opposite effect, the polarity of it, right? You turn around and you want to walk away from all of it, and instead of engaging in some of it, because you feel like the circumstance isn't adhering to what you're dealing with in reality. And, so there's this synergy going on. And maybe that's a tangent, but I think that leads right back to, not being heard or seen or understood in a family dynamic.
Definitely. And I guess it does take experience. You need to experience it. You need to feel, I guess, even the rejection, even all that, I guess, emotions that stir up a lot of things in us, to then be able to have the courage to step into that voice, right? I believe I know for me, I have that synergy now. I can say that I can flow in and out of it without feeling a certain way, whereas before, I did struggle with it. There's definitely and having lived in many countries as well and traveled, you really get to see those family cultures come up. And I must admit, I've been and I am very adaptable. I can pretty much lift and uproot and move into another country and flow. And in some cases even think I'm part of them, culturally. I'm that nationality. And I know when I lived in the Caribbean, for example, in Barbados, and then I moved around in the other islands, and I really felt I was a Caribbean woman. Like I just really blended, and they couldn't believe how I just I guess adapted and flowed with their customs and everything. But that was just me too, just exploring and just diving in,
That's important.
Having fun. Yeah.
It's important to have fun. It's important to flow. It's important to explore. And you know, when we first started this out, it made me think about all of those people who don't do that. Okay, because a good majority of people's lives is focused on the routine. A good majority of people's lives is focused on the habitual things that they have to get accomplished every day. Every day, Monday through Friday, you're going to a 9-to-5 job. Every day, Monday through Friday, you're dropping kids off, picking them up, or you're taking care of what your husband's needs are before he gets home, before he takes off, or you're trying to accomplish organizing everything that you need to get accomplished for you after you prioritize all of the other people's things that you're responsible to within the family, whatever those dynamics are. Yeah. And there's a point where after so many years of that, and I mean years, after so many years of that, those people who've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, right? Because on average, if you have children, you're doing it for 20 years. You're doing it for at least 18 years of your life. Mm-hmm. Okay. Definitely. And you lose self in the midst of that. You lose who you are, because who you are is defined by what you do and how you're needed. And there are very few that learn how to capture that that's taking place, pause it, and reset.
Absolutely.
And that needs to take place for those types of dynamics. And it's important, and that's where that voice comes in. If you know that, you know, your kids' activities are coming first, and you have this plan, and it's like, oh, I can't even go to my own thing because I gotta drop off, I gotta pick up, I gotta make arrangements, I gotta this, I gotta that. You know, you had made plans and you wanted to go out with friends, but you can't because he needs this, he needs that, you know, or she needs this, she needs that. And you're taking care and you're manipulating in the family dynamics. And again, well, I'll just put my thing aside. It's really important for them. It's a big day for them. It's a big event for them. Blah, 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on. And then you're in a routine, right? So you do this for years. And you go, okay, wait a second. Why is everything that I need and I want in the back burner? Why is it I have to give up the activity or the event that's important to me for everybody else, because everybody else is more, or it seems so, it seems, you know? So that whole dynamic.
Exactly, which leads me actually into the next little bit of conversation I really want to talk about, and the effects of this on relationships, of course, okay, and intimacy. And the question is intimacy disappearing because you are avoiding being, or avoiding using your voice, or avoiding being authentic? Because, you know, when you're authentic and you step into your true value and who you are, and you will then, you know, be sharing. So is intimacy in relationships actually disappearing as a result? Because, you know, when we talk about what you just said, where the mother primarily puts everybody else first, or maybe a man, maybe the father that's playing the daddy, you know, stay-at-home mum, putting everybody else first, that intimacy is also lost in the relationship.
So I think it does get lost, and I think it gets lost based on sheer exhaustion. I don't know that it's not your voice being heard. I think that we over plan too much. We over plan too much for our kids. We over plan too much for ourselves. We over plan and have a lot on our plate. And many people are working and, you know, being the housewife and, you know, or all of the different hats and roles that we wear. The dutiful daughter, the dutiful son, the dutiful, you know, brother, the dutiful sister, the beautiful auntie, the beautiful, you know, all these duties and all these roles that we have to play. and in caretaking and nurturing and chauffeuring and this and that and the other, you're exhausted.
But don't you
And
think?
then,
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, and then, if you are prioritizing yourself last, that's another one of those things: self-nurturing, self-care, self-intimacy, that to take care of yourself in those regards.
Absolutely. Which I think, again, if you're not using that voice and if you're losing your voice, to actually change that up a little bit, if you are totally overexhausting yourself, there needs to come a time of, using your voice and maybe changing some of the routines, responsibilities on others, not taking it on. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, and all that was going on. It must be really awful. You need to use that voice, or else you get buried in all that. And
well, what you're saying is really significant, and I think that I'm an exception to the rule. I think that the typical person doesn't do it, and I think that they wake up and they look, and they're in their 40s and 50s, and they go, "What happened?
Yes.
Where's me in the middle of all of this? Where did I go, and how did I get here? And why do I feel lost?" I mean, for me personally, it was a situation of basically sitting my family down and saying, something's got to shift, something's got to change, because it feels like that I'm not important in this family and that everybody else is. So instead of me just blaming or resenting that and feeling that way, I sat them all down. It was just like, okay, kids, okay, partner, you have to understand that it hurts when I can't get accomplished what I want to get accomplished. It's just as important as your big events. So here's how we're going to work as a family unit in a dynamic. If we have conflicts, you may have to look for a ride. If we have things where we can't get disorganized, we might have to bring somebody else in and figure it out, or you're going to have to get dropped off early and sit and wait until it's time, because that's when your ride can be provided. But we had to actually change and figure it out and work through it. And a lot of people will not do that.
No, they won't. I've just got a little message here from Patricia. If a person isn't capable or chooses not to allow their partner to, I've got my glasses on, use their voice, okay?
Yeah.
Their voice, intimacy can be lost. Yes, absolutely. Because, like Enolia was saying, that, sitting down, having a conversation is very, very important, because if you're not having that conversation, you are, what's happening? You're not having that conversation. You're losing yourself. You're not taking control. You're not setting healthy boundaries. And that's what it's really about, isn't it? Patricia's got another message here. Some are just simply selfish. Yes. However, if we're talking about, our partners or family members that are selfish, yeah. But again, we have to look back on ourselves and set some healthy boundaries, have that voice, be strong enough to sit down and have that conversation, right, Nolia?
That's right. That selfishness, it can be taking place, but how we choose to respond to it is of our own accord. So again, I'll go back to that same scenario that I was sharing. A lot of times we get lost because we allow that to take place. We basically just say, well, it's important to them, and we put ourselves secondary, or it's important to, accomplish this for them. It's about the importance of everyone else except yourself. And then we feed the beast. We feed that selfishness. We feed that and nurture that.
Totally a disservice, a total disservice to yourself and others, because you're creating, like Enolia said, you're feeding the beast. You're creating, that other person to be more empowered in keeping you submissive, I guess, because it's a form of submissiveness, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
So, having trouble being yourself or open up to others because you lack self-confidence. You lack the fear of, being rejected. Because a lot of us, when we're not strong enough or when we haven't done the work or we just don't know, because a lot of us just go along life living without really exploring deeper that, hey, there must be another way. Dealing with rejection and being influenced by other people's opinions can really, refrain us in a big, big way.
I'm sitting here. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm sitting here thinking about what you just said, and it also can come under the auspices of the fact that we love our family, and we want to give, and then we give and we give and we give, and then you think that it will come to a place of, okay, you gave enough, thank you, we appreciate you, everything, but it doesn't stop. It just keeps going, and you look up and you give, and then you're exhausted from giving. That is being received, and you're not loved. Mm-hmm. But it also comes on the fact that we overdo it. And it goes back to what you said in terms of healthy boundaries. When does it come to a place where enough has taken place? When you're sheerly exhausted and at your wit's end, and you're ready to explode because you're not getting any self-care back, and you haven't set that boundary. When is enough?
Very important question. When is enough? Well, for some people, they need to hit that explosive stage. And, I must say, I see this happening in our family, like particularly my mum and dad. Like my mother being the very typical Italian mama, always of service and providing, cooking, cleaning and everything. And I do acknowledge that. I do see that. And then she gives and gives. And then she just goes pop. She's 5'1", 5'2". She's not very tall, quite a solid little woman. But when she explodes, she's sweet as sweet. But when she explodes, she lets you know she's had enough. And I try and tell her exactly that it doesn't have to get to that, because when we get to that, that's not good for our health. That's not good for us. Your whole being, physically, mentally, spiritually. So I think that's what happens in a lot of us, where we don't know how to handle the situation. We don't know how to hold conversations around it. We don't know how to step into our confidence that it's okay to speak. It's okay to share how you're feeling. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say yes, and it's okay to say no. I think, yeah, and I see it. I see it with my mom, and often I say, oh my God, I don't want to be like her. I'm definitely not like her, but and I'm talking to a woman that is in her 80s, so it's difficult. That's 80 years of conditioning and tradition and culture tightly packed in together, but she has made moves, some positive moves. So what do you say about that, Enolia? How
you're thinking about that too, and it's just like, we don't start off that way, that, right?
No, of course
not. We don't start off that way. And in a relationship, right, a person attracts the other person. Your love for who you are, as you are, that's what's attracted that person. And something happens when we come together. We come together and we want to show our love, and then we show our love by doing for one another, and then we overdo because we're just so in love and we just want to do everything we can for that person. And then they turn around and they expect that to be our norm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the norm. We've then just said, and I go back to what my mom said. My mom said something when we were growing up. She said, always start your relation off the way you want it, because that's the expectation that person will have the rest of their lives with you.
And that makes perfect sense.
Right? So, what happens when you first get there and you're in love and you want to cook all the time and you just want to tie their shoe for them and just, everything's so pretty and this, and everything's just done to perfection. And you look up and it's just like, that's what's expected. Wow.
Mm.
And then, at least in the Western world.
Yeah. And then 20 years later, what happens 20 years later?
And then 20 years later, 2 years later, I'm tired. I have to go to work and you expect me to do this, this, and this. I'm exhausted when I get home. I don't want to cook. Right.
Absolutely.
But, and then you go to other families and different cultures, and it's like you wouldn't fathom thinking about going out to eat when you have food at home and someone there to cook. Absolutely not.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know. You start off that relationship a certain way, and I think that that's part of how we lose ourselves. I really do. We have this overwhelming want and need to nurture and take care of and be everything for that person. And it's interesting because then it would go for the definition of how do you walk in a relationship, And I say this because, having been married for 30 years and actually having done some of that stuff, which is like I wanted to be everything, I wanted to do everything. And then 10, 15 years later, it's like, I can't be everything. I can't do everything. I'm exhausted. I'm working full time. I'm currently dropping off and picking up kids back left and right. I'm not Superwoman.
No.
And then when you finally admit that you're not Superwoman, where do you go from there? And another thing that I started doing is I realized that I didn't want to be all consuming in my relationship. I wanted a partner who walks side by side with me. And that's different because a lot of people, let me not generalize, I feel that it's easy to be consumed by somebody else's needs, or you to consume by your needs, your partner. And why weren't we ever taught to just come together in mutual respect and walk side by side with each other and work with and learn that you don't have to be consumed by it.
Which I just want to go back a little bit where you said something really important. And you said where your mother gave you this wonderful advice. And she said, you start off that relationship the way you want to kind of carry it through for the rest of your life, basically. So that to me, sounds like really being able to set healthy boundaries, expressing, it doesn't mean you don't do things for your partner. No, we're not saying that, right? But
no,
having some boundaries, understanding when you're overdoing it, that it can then become just expected. Part of your role as a wife, as a lover, as a partner, whatever. But, coming into the relationship together and walking side by side and not really fitting into those, cultural roles either, because
it doesn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't fit into the cultural roles because you're defining what that is. The two of you are, and the culture is not defining it for you. And many cultures define the roles of how a woman's supposed to be in a relationship and how what his role is in a relationship. And it's definitely
right. Which brings up a really good point there. As a couple, we redefine what our relationship is.
We can
redefine, which is the whole program here for Zanetta. Redefine me, redefining your relationship to what suits both of you together. And it may even be where two couples come from two total different cultures, rather than dragging in let's make this our, culture together. Let's bring in, redefine what is right for us as a couple. And I think that's really important. Now, having said that, that's prior to stepping into a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about those that are already in a relationship? They're with someone, they just love them, adore them to bits, but they just are climbing walls, cringing and trying to get out of that and stepping into their voice, not losing their voice. Like they've had enough of losing, like giving their voice away. They want to regain that voice. They want to step into their power again. What do you suggest about that? How do we do that? Because I think that's what's happening now. Okay, sure, we can prepare ourselves before a relationship, but what about for those people that are already in a relationship and they really want to make this work? They really don't want to give the relationship away because it's been very strong, but there are these elements that pull and tug at them that if they're not attended to can create separation in a relationship because of resentment, etc., etc., etc.
Well, the first thing I would think is, first of all, the power of making that decision and making and standing in your authenticity and basically saying, I have needs that are not being met. That's first and foremost, acknowledging and then understanding what those needs are. And then the next thing would be sitting down and communicating those needs and having a conversation that basically says, are your needs being met? Are my needs being met? Here are the things that I really would like out of this relationship. And, in a place of love and in a place of caring, you would hope that each one of those partners agree to come into some type of harmony that makes them both happy, because that's what being in a relationship should be about, is that you both come into a mutual place in a mutual space so that you can both be happy. And the conversation, I want to talk about the conversation too when we communicate. Communication is important. We know that communication is important, but how you communicate is important also. We don't have to come from a place of belittlement. We don't have to come from a place of blame. We don't have to come from a place that basically demeans somebody in order for you to have what you want. Mm-hmm. There is a way to communicate such that it is clear that these are the needs that you have that aren't being met. It's not that it's anyone's fault. Mm. It's not that, it's been neglected. It's like, you can't read my mind. So I'm going to communicate this so that we have a better understanding of what my expectations may be. And by the way, I don't fault anyone for that not being met. I'm just clarifying that they are here. And now that you know that they are here, you have an opportunity to act on that. Mm, mm. And that's a different place than like, you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't do this and because that place of demeaning, that place of belittlement, that place of blaming makes you feel what? Makes anyone feel small.
Absolutely.
Or not enough. Or, we go into guilt and we go into shame and we go into all of these range of emotions that you don't necessarily have to go to in order to communicate.
Absolutely.
So how you communicate is so important.
Yeah, and I just want to interject in that and just say that part of the communication is also listening. May I add listening? Because, we have a lot to say, but we also need to be able to listen and give that person, your partner or family member, whoever it is, hold space for them, and be able to, tell me, let it out, scream, shout, get messy, get ugly, get dark, whatever it is. I'm here, I'm listening. And when you do listen, you listen without, interruptions. You let that person, let it all out, because you're holding space, and you really tell them. Because sometimes, what I've heard through talking to many people and coaching, and the main problem is they won't speak, they won't share, they just won't tell me what they're feeling. However, if you can really, create that space, hold that space, and tell them that you're very present and that you're listening, and no matter what they say, no matter what you say to me, what you bring up, I'm not going anywhere. I got your back. I am here for you. I love you. Just really, I guess, reiterating that you have their back and that you love them, and that no matter what they say, it's not going to upset you. It's not going to perturb you, and making them, allowing that space to make them feel comfortable enough to say what they've been holding back. Because a lot of times,
that place of vulnerability, it's like both agreeing that we're going to go to a vulnerable place. We are both going to go to a vulnerable place. Can we talk about this? Understanding that we're both going to be sensitive, and we both really don't want our feelings trampled on, but that you won't shut down as you're vulnerable, and that you will meet each other in a mutual space to be vulnerable. It's choosing and making that decision and then going there. Many of the things that we do when we shut down, all you have to do is make a decision. It's the power of a decision. You choose, and when you choose to go there and you communicate it appropriately, then at least you're both in the same understanding of what's trying to take place here. Now, holding that space may be another story, but coming to that space and at least starting off in that space, it's a choice.
Yeah. But I think once you prepare that space, obviously you've got to prepare it. You've got to, say, well, I'm listening, I'm here for you. That automatically is going to, hopefully allow them to become vulnerable, because you're becoming vulnerable as well. I think in that situation, you're becoming vulnerable. And, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, all things happen. That's where the magic happens. I always say that's the magic.
Yeah, but that's where it's also counterintuitive. That's where someone always feels like they are exposed. And see, why I'm saying it's counterintuitive is because the most work gets done when you're exposed, and most people will defend instead of expose. They will defend to the hilt. They will cover up. They will put the facade down. The facade that I am strong and you can't hurt me, and anything you say is just ridiculous or not rational. That's the facade. And we do this because it's like, you're going to a place that can actually hurt my feelings. And if you go there and I'm not prepared, and if you go there and you actually intentionally hurt me, or say it purposefully with negative intent behind it, that's too deep for me. So let me bring down the facade. So that's why I feel like that the agreement to set the ground rules, literally set the ground rules, and do the counterintuitive thing, which is both be vulnerable. Exactly. Both have a mutual respect in that vulnerability to get the work accomplished.
Yeah. And remember also, what's that? Sorry, Nolia.
But you're right about the listening. You're absolutely right about the listening.
Definitely.
Nothing takes place unless listening and hearing. Listening and hearing. Because you can listen and still interpret it the way you want to. Hearing means that you're actually putting yourself in that other person's place. And you're really hearing what they have to say in that listening skill.
Definitely.
Even though it may be in opposition.
Yeah, because, we don't all agree, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. We're just giving them space to express themselves and to be vulnerable. And again, like you said, coming from a place, a heart space, coming from your heart, opening up from your heart, because I truly believe when you deliver a message from your heart space, you can't go wrong. There's no failing. There is no failing. Trusting that message, trusting that the process, and going deep into your heart and surrendering. That's what it is, really. It's surrendering to that then you will be in that flow state of love, that flow state of just communicating from a place of love, being humble, and that then will automatically transcend into being vulnerable, and everything will flow. So yeah.
I would like to ask the studio audience too. There's just, if you're out there and you have questions, or I have a question for them. Have you ever lost yourself in the midst of a relationship where you felt that your voice wasn't heard? And if so, what was that? So if you're out there and you want to respond to that, please do. We welcome the connection, and we welcome the interjection into the conversation. So if you're out there, we'd love it.
Please come out and let us know. And I would really love to have Patricia here. Patricia, are you there? I'm going to send you a link right now to join us. Are you with us? So would you like to go ahead and answer that question, even though you've asked it?
When have I felt like I lost my voice? I was married for 30 years. So from the onset of the conversation, I feel like I answered it, which was, I was trying to be Superwoman, corporate job, 2 kids, the husband at the time, all of it. And I would get up, go to work, put in 60, 70 hours a week. I used to go to work, come home, cook for the family, make sure homework was done, kids had a set bedtime, they went to bed, and then I double back to work, and I worked from like 8 p.m. till midnight, come home, go to sleep, and start all over again and be there by 8 o'clock in the morning. So been there.
Wow.
Done it and lost in it, and wouldn't ask for it back. Really trying to just do too much and feeling overwhelmed, and lost in all of the things that I had to do, and not being able to keep up with it for the 20 years that I was there. Yeah, without it impacting my health.
Yeah. Wow. Well, some reason Facebook has logged me out. I'm being locked out of my own account for some reason. Do you want to sign into Messenger with your saved password? Yes. Done. And it's not allowing me. Okay. So I can't send, if you can send Patricia that same login, please, that I sent you.
Okay. I will do that.
Thank you. Because it's not allowing me to go in. Not sure why. I don't want to waste time doing that. So yeah. And maybe it's not allowing the messages to come through, possibly even.
I don't think it has anything to do with you. Oh, wow. It says message unavailable when I go into the account where you sent it to me.
Really?
Yeah. Let me just see where I am. Yeah, on Messenger.
Wow. Something's going on.
Yeah.
It's not allowing
So here, I'll just pick up the link from, let me see if I can pick it up from here.
Copy. I can send it to you on WhatsApp. It's really strange. It's actually logged me out. I've never done this before, so do you have it? Copy.
I think that I'll tell you in 1 second. Edit paste. Ooh, no paste.
No what? Paste.
No, I copied and pasted it so that I could put the URL into the.
I've just sent it to you on WhatsApp.
Okay, I'll go there. Going to WhatsApp. So we love technology as we do this.
I don't know. This is I can even send it here.
And a shout out to Rhonda, because Rhonda was on last week and she wanted to talk about this conversation.
I know. I did personally message her. I did send her a message. Again, I can't see because 0 4 3 5 3 2 8 2. That's asking me to go back in with my password. That's interesting. Log in. Maybe it will allow me to log in now. Incorrect password. Okay, let's do it again. Log in. Sometimes Facebook does that. It kind of like continue. Hang on, it's gone through, I think. Add your phone number again. Add your mobile number. No, this is not right. Something's going wrong. Log in. Oh, well. She's not there. Did you send her the message on your messenger?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So let's continue.
Yeah.
So, Enolia, what tips would you give our audience to actually regain their voice, not lose their voice, avoid losing their voice?
Well, I guess the first thing that I would say is you have to make a decision, and you need to make a decision that you need to be heard. I mean, if you don't have the understanding that your voice is worth hearing, and if it doesn't start with you, then it's already lost. So it's important, it's imperative that you make that decision that your voice is worth hearing. And then you stand in your truth. And you understand that your truth may not necessarily be everybody else's truth, because a lot of times what happens is that we get the projections of and judgments and expectations of what is how we're looked at and what's needed from us. And that's where we lose ourselves too. And you have to have clarity as to what's important to you. Why is that important to you? How is that important to you? Those pieces will help you really, really understand what you need to say. Be honest with yourself. You know, don't formulate and say something because somebody else has said it. Because somebody else feelings may get hurt because you say it. You know, we're not here to people please. We're here to stand in our truth, whatever that truth may be. Come from your heart. It doesn't have to be antagonistic just to be shared. And you can share in a loving way. It doesn't have to be a blame or belittling or demeaning kind of way in order to share that. All these things are important, not just for you. Well, actually, it is important for you, because when you come from a place of not just authenticity, but a place of love and care and compassion in a compassionate way, then that vibration of what you have to say is going to be delivered that way. And that yields a different experience to the person who's receiving it.
Mm.
How would you do it, Stefania? What tips?
Yes, well, I think I would just want to add to that. You've got great tips. I think you've taken all of mine. So that's okay. I just want to add to that a little bit more on the compassion part. I mean, having compassion for someone else, but ultimately having compassion for yourself, because this is a journey also for you, and you may not be able to get it right the first time. You know, the whole journey of stepping out into your authenticity, being vulnerable, you know, opening up your heart, all those, but really have compassion for yourself and just, you know, open up your heart to yourself as well and say, I'm doing a great job at this. You know, I may not have got it right the first time. I may not get it right the second time, but I'm working on that delivery. So don't expect that, you know, you'll get it the first time, because when you're transitioning from that place of not using your voice, not allowing yourself to use your voice, to then stepping into your power slowly, it doesn't happen overnight. Okay. So for some it does, you know, they're great. For some of us it does, but for some people it's, you know, foreign waters. It's getting uncomfortable, and, you know, get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because it is, you know, unknown waters. We're going through.
If it's of value to you, you have to fight for it. You know, and fighting for it is getting uncomfortable, going into that uncomfortable space, being willing to listen, being willing to compromise, being willing to come part way, and meeting somebody in the middle if you both disagree vehemently.
Absolutely.
All of those pieces are so important.
And, you know, don't be afraid to start, you know, journeying, going deep within yourself, spending quiet times with yourself, because when we spend that quiet time with ourselves, that's when the the wisdom, you know, the messages, the divine is working through us and giving us the messages we need to hear. And if we're too busy running around, we're not listening. We're not giving ourselves the time and the space and the peacefulness of letting that download, because that's what it is. We're getting downloads all the time, and if we just sit still enough, we will get those downloads, particularly when we're in that moment of, oh my God, I don't know what to do. You're in that chaos. You're feeling like there's no way out. There is a way out. You can start with baby.
Yeah. But the number one thing, I think the number one thing that you have to do is you have to make a decision that you're not going to stay stuck in the story. That we are the creators of our stories. And you have a significant choice right then and there, is that I'm going to move past this story and I'm going to be creator of a new story. And I am not going to be stuck and defining myself here, cycling that story of the same thing over and over again with a different face. You know, that when we are in a story that we are stuck in, we are at a crossroads, and it is a conscious choice and a conscious decision to move through the story and push the story into the past.
Yeah.
And to move forward.
And create a new story.
Create a new story.
Create a new story. You're allowed to create a new story. It's like starting a new painting. Have a nice, big, white, fresh canvas in front of you.
Exactly.
and start
Exactly.
painting away, adding your colors and everything. Great. Oh, wonderful. Well, it's been great, Enolia, as always.
As always.
Conversing
Yes.
with you. We thank you, Zanetta. We wish you were here with us, but I'm sure you'll catch us on the replay, and we look forward to having you back next week and talking about a new topic, which I'm actually going to be starting my new show too, to all of you out there that are listening, Real Raw Relationship Talk at the Gentleman's Square. So we have a topic coming up with Zanetta, and we're going to be talking about jealousy, all aspects of jealousy. When we're got a jealous partner, how do we deal with a jealous partner? When we are too jealous and we realize that we have this tendency of overreacting, how do we deal with jealousy, whether it be with a partner or with our own selves? So that's going to be pretty an interesting topic. And of course, Enolia, you can join us as always. But before we go, Enolia, tell the audience how they can reach you, of course.
I can be reached at www.enolia.live on my website. And please do take a look at my YouTube site. I'm always adding brand new pieces there. So Stefania and I do a show called Relationship Talk that I always love doing with her. We just put out a new episode. I also have a podcast that just launched on Spotify called Be Empowered. So I invite you to check that out. It's on Spotify and Anchor. And also you can catch it on the YouTube channel for a replay. And yeah, just come on out and connect. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of the social media channels. And I do in-depth and no I want to say no BS, but I won't curse on the internet. But I do serious coaching. And if you're one of those people who wants to transition in their life, you want to shift their life, I guide you through that process. It's really a soul activation. And we work really, really deeply in that. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me through my website.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And of course, www, the Gentleman's Square, for the gentlemen out there that would like to work on themselves. Of course, I am a coach and also a hypnotherapist. So modality of working through the subconscious mind and overcoming limiting beliefs in every area of life, relationships particularly, and stepping into your power as well. So you can catch me on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and my website, of course, The Gentleman's Square. And let's not forget, Redefine Me with Zanetta, who is offering amazing and wonderful coaching as well in all areas of life, empowering both men and women. And Zanetta, we love you and looking forward to chatting with you again next week. And until then, and be sure to leave a comment down below, okay? Whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or I think it's streaming through other channels as well, please leave a comment if there's any topics that you want us to talk about with Zanetta and I here. Please let us know. We'd be only too happy to cover those topics and help you out. Until next time, I send you love, I send you passion. And thanks once again, Enolia.
Blessings to you all, and what an honor to be here. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.